Hello everyone and welcome back to Axon Gamers. My name's Senkai and it's been like a week since I did a video. Why is that? Well, I have been playing God of War on PS4 and I beat it last night, so it's time to review it. So let's get to it. About this cover here, I think it's pretty funny that it's the thumbnail I used for my impressions for this game, a previous video of mine. I will be talking more about like this cover and how I got it in my pickups video for the month, but regardless, about that video, if you watched that already, this is gonna be like my continuation on my impressions and my overall just review for the game. If you haven't watched it, you might want to go back and do so. However, a lot of the things I said back then, I don't really think anymore, so yeah, this is gonna be interesting. Well, first and foremost, I want to cover the difficulty I played on, and that's also something I talked about in the impressions video. So I started the game on Give Me God of War difficulty, which is the highest one. There is easy, normal, hard, and then there's like this hardest difficulty, which is called Give Me God of War. The other ones were like give me a story, give me a balanced experience, which, you know, sounds awesome and all. And the hard difficulty was called give me a challenge. So the differences are kind of easy, like, or simple rather. On easy, it's pretty easy, and on balanced, it's balanced. And on give me a challenge, the enemies have like more health and stuff. On Give Me God of War, they have even more health, and they have something we call a devil trigger, kind of from Devil May Cry, where they will level up mid-combat and get all their HP back, and not just get all their HP back, but they will level up, like I said, and that's something I'm gonna get back to in this review later on, because levels actually matters a whole lot, I realized. So, I played the opening hours of the game on Give Me God of War difficulty, and it was ridiculous. It was too hard. So I switched over to balanced, like the normal mode, and I played up till the part where I stopped on the hardest, and played for like maybe an hour after that. And I realized that this game has not just equipment, like enchantments you can put into the equipment, talisman, which like gives you a cooldown effect that you can pop every like minute or so, that it will give you an edge in combat. You level up, you can get new skills that actually really change the outcome of battles. So when I got all those things and like learned more about the game, it became so easy on normal, and I would still like constantly think to myself that, what if I got all those things on the hardest mode? So I went back, and still being like the level 0 or level 1 with like no gear or anything, I just had to get good and overcome that first part, because when I started to level up and get new stuff, Give Me God of War was exactly what I was hoping for, and what I was expecting when I started the game. In my impressions, I talked a lot about how this is a kind of like semi-open world game, and how there's like side quests and secrets, and you can like get all those, like I mentioned the enchantments that you can put inside gear, and the talismans and stuff. You can craft new gear, but those things are separate, so you find those in like chests or in like, yeah, in cryptic places, so you have to be like clever or really explore to get those. And by playing on the hardest difficulty, I kind of motivated myself to actually try my best to find all of those things, as they will not just make the game easier, but maybe the game is so hard that those will actually make it possible at all. And that turned out to be the case. So I really started to fall in love with this game, and the combat is very, very different from earlier games. It's not this character action game, or whatever we call those action games of the past, where you can turn around your character by just holding like your left stick in that direction and press attack, and they would like automatically change ways. It's not like that like arcade style beat 'em up in that sense. This is more of a like slow paced, over the shoulder third person action game, and to like turn around you really need to stop what you're doing and actually turn around, and that creates this like new challenge in the game, where if there's like ranged enemies on top of the enemies you're already fighting, you always need to keep track of where the enemies are, especially the ranged ones, because they will keep shooting at you from far away, and the game is so zoomed in. It's a very zoomed in game. Uh, so a friend of mine actually made the comparison to Doom, where if you stop in Doom, you're screwed. You need to constantly move, and at least on GMGoW difficulty, that was kind of the case as well. I had to constantly move around and switch targets and play my best at all times to succeed, and it was so much fun. I had a blast playing through the game. I did it on Twitch, by the way, and right now, if you watched the video at the time I uploaded, more or less the whole playthrough of me playing on that difficulty is up on Twitch, which I don't know, I might like download those files and compile something for the channel, I don't know, but it's up there, and it was a lot of fun that some of you guys joined and commented while I was playing. It was motivational for sure. It really pushed me to go on. So there's a lot more I want to say about the game, because I think it's truly special, and so there's been a lot of those 10 out of 10 games on Metacritic throughout the like last couple of years, like maybe 4 or 5 years or so. Every single like big budget title AAA game seems to get these like 10s, and it's weird to me, because you have like the true 10s, right? Like Resident Evil 4 and The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time comes to mind, that are like special games that introduce new mechanics to genres or like gaming as a whole that would keep getting used later on. Shenmue did that too, but let's leave that game for now. So I mean, a game that's not just good, but actually like means something in the long run. Because I'm sure God of War 2, or whatever it's gonna be called, is gonna be like the better game. So then it doesn't make any sense to like give this game a 10 out of 10, right? It's a tough topic. However, there were some things that I think God of War did well enough to be remembered in history, or in video game history, where I've played BioShock Infinite, The Last of Us, and many of those like story-driven AAA games where the graphics and the storytelling with like the voice actors and motion captures and everything has gotten to such a high level that the games have to be like shorter, they have to be dumbed down, there's not much game left in the games, if you know what I mean. And that's no problem really, because I love story-driven games. I love The Walking Dead. Beyond Two Souls is a favorite of mine. But God of War is really a game, a true game at its core, and the level design is similar to Resident Evil 4, where there's like linear paths that branch out to like more of hub areas where you can actually like, fuck comparing games to Dark Souls, but it's kind of like Dark Souls, you know, where it's not really an open world because there's a lot of huge bland areas, but it's like these linear paths that branch to like shortcuts to previous areas. There is a hub in God of War, a hub world, where you have your boat and you can just like travel around, and so this is like the middle part of the world map. So you have all these different places, but when you get access to the boat, you can like just either go to those areas straight away, and you get like shortcuts and a warp mechanic as well. But it's pretty cool because the graphics in the game are so good, and it kind of impresses me because it's all taken in like one shot. So there are no loading screens unless you die, which I did a lot. But the whole game is like one transition. It looks phenomenal, and even the war points, because they are like gates. So you go into the gate and you actually go through the gates like with your over-the-shoulder camera, and you appear in the next area. Or there's like a transition world. I don't want to say too much, but you play your way through that, and you actually play your way through the entire game, and that's why I think it's kind of special in that way, where I think it will be memorable as far as video game history goes. It's a huge step when it comes to those AAA games, because it is comparable to Last of Us when it comes to the graphics and the story. Not plot-wise, maybe a bit, actually. But I'm just talking presentation and how it looks and how it kind of like plays out in terms of like cutscenes and stuff. But at the same time, you have this game that's actually really fun to play in the gameplay loop. And what I mean about that is that you can get a new skill, but to get that you need to fight to get more experience by completing quests. And when you get this new skill, which might be like a ranged skill, you might want to combine that with a gear piece that makes ranged skills better. So you want to get this like gear piece, and to get that you need like materials to craft it. So that's the gameplay loop I'm talking about, and it's so much fun because you're always playing the game, and that goes for like whenever the cinematics are over, you always go to the next cinematic. You're constantly in motion, both in combat and outside of combat, and it's spectacular, I have to say. And the same goes with the puzzles. There's not a lot of these puzzles where like the game zooms out, or you have to like do a mini game or some stuff. Every puzzle in the game you solve with your like in-game controls. You're always in control of the character, and learning all the moves and learning like the camera, because I maxed out the camera to the fastest speed, which is a bit too fast, but actually learning that is worth it, because it helps you in exploring, it helps you in combat, and it helps you in solving puzzles. It's phenomenal. I don't know. I don't really know how I can cover this game as a whole, because there's so many great things to say about it, but I think that's the most important thing to mention, that you're really playing this game. And when I played like Last of Us, there would be like quick time events sometimes, and like walking, and it's tough to explain, and I don't want to bash The Last of Us, because that's a great game as well, a really fantastic experience, at least. But God of War took me back to what games used to be, when a game couldn't like rely on a good story, when the game actually had to be good to sell well. Castlevania Symphony of the Night has like what? 15 minutes of story. The rest is just gameplay. So kudos to Santa Monica Studios. I'm so impressed they actually made a game that's so much game, but still manages to deliver that AAA story that The Last of Us did. Comparing games is not the best thing to do in a review, I know. If you haven't played the games I talk about, I hope you still understand what I'm trying to say here. But it's just so awesome that a game that I got like as invested in as Bloodborne per se, or like any other action game where the core mechanic is to beat the game through tough combat, was the same game as this incredible game that God of War is when it comes to storytelling. This story about a dad and his son and everything they go through, it's quite spectacular. And there's so many things that I think the story did well too, but because it's so close to release, like it's been a month or something, and a lot of you guys haven't played the game, so I won't say anything about the story really. There were some things I absolutely loved and some things that I thought was a little bit like meh, but overall it was fantastic, and just the level of storytelling, in combination with the level of gameplay, excellent stuff. The music wasn't the best. I mean, the tracks were really good, but they were kind of few, and there was a lot of silence in the game, sort of similar to the Souls games, and I mean, it works better in those games where there's like no cutscenes or anything. But in this game where there were actually a lot of cutscenes, whenever the cutscene would end, I was like, no, that song's really good. Keep playing it, right? There's no need to be silent, I feel. I would love if the areas had like memorable songs and stuff, but that's just a nitpick. It's still a fantastic game. And I mean, I have a few nitpicks. We could go in depth in the combat and stuff, but I think I'm happy with the review for now. But what I'm trying to say is that even if a game has flaws, it's these pros that stand out so much that I talked about earlier in the review, that could make a game deserve that praise that it's getting. And I'm sure most people who gives this game a 10 doesn't even think about the stuff I mentioned, and gives it a 10 for a whole other reason. I don't know. And so I'm not gonna give it a 10 because no game's perfect besides a few. But yeah, I keep just rambling on here. But God of War deserves high praise because I think it's a phenomenal game, and it does some things that we will remember years on. And if the sequel is better, then we can remember this franchise as something spectacular that really changed the way AAA games hopefully will be played from now on. Because I think relying on a story only, and not really give that much thought into like how the game plays or how the game feels to play. That's what I'm trying to say. God of War here feels incredible to play, and to actually feel that I was playing the game the entire time, and I was always in control and using the same controls throughout the entire game. Excellent stuff, and it really encourages you to actually get good at the game, and that's why I had a blast playing it on the hardest difficulty. That might not be for everybody, I know it will not, because it was really, really hard. But like I said in my impressions, I was really looking forward to a game that was so hard that it kind of encouraged me to do everything in the game, and God of War was just that. It turned out to be just that, and I'm so happy I stuck around to give me God of War difficulty and beat the game. My reaction to when I beat the game was kind of priceless too. I went back and watched that, and I was like one of those overly hyped streamers. I always thought that those kind of moments in streams were like forced, but yeah, sometimes you just get really, really happy over stuff in games. But that will be it. So that's it for my review of God of War on PS4, aka God of War 2018. This game has high chances of being in my Game of the Year list for the year, as I think it's truly special, and I hope all of you play it. If you play it on the easiest or on normal, I don't care. You should experience this game because it's something else, and when you've done so, I would love to talk about it more with you guys. So please leave a comment below, and yeah, that's it. So until next time, as always, get gaming.